Let's talk a little bit about eggs. Okay, so there's a study out there, a meta-analysis looked at the difference between organic eggs and conventional eggs and human health outcomes. Before we get into that, let's talk about what is an organic egg. Okay, and so what makes, at least according to USDA, what makes an organic egg is an egg that's been raised under organic conditions, which again, that means basically the feed has to be organic, so it can be devoid of GMO feed. Pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics are excluded unless the animal is sick. Then they're allowed to have antibiotics. And then they also have to have access to the outside. They can't be raised in cages. And so what's the difference between a free-range egg and an organic egg? Well, a free-range egg will be outside, but it can have access to non-organic feed. So they could have pesticides, herbicides, and things like that. So the difference between organic and free range is that. Now, there were, like I said, there was a study that came out looking on these organic eggs versus conventional eggs. And what they found, and the study was called Organic Egg Consumption, a Systematic Review of Aspects Related to Human Health. And this is a recent study that just came out. And so they basically looked at about 3,000 studies on eggs, and they scrolled through all those, and they found about 90 that met the criteria comparing, eggs to outcomes, and they only found 3 that actually were considered of the type that could answer the question. That is to say, comparing organic eggs to conventional eggs and different health outcomes. And the outcomes that they tracked were kind of interesting, but not too exciting. So the first one they looked at little kids, 0 to 2 years of age, and they fed some of them that ate mostly organic eggs, greater than 90% of the time, or some of them ate it kind of 50% or so, 50% or slightly more. And they compared the outcomes with regard to eczema. Okay, so which one was more likely to produce eczema? Well, interestingly, on the results, they found the kids eating the more of the time organic eggs had a little bit higher rate of eczema. Now, that was a crude analysis. What they found when they controlled for the confounders, breastfeeding, exposure to animals, and other things that daycare, tobacco exposure, all these things, what they found is it didn't really make a difference in that particular case. There was a second study, and they looked at, these were lacto-ovo-vegetarians. So these are vegetarians that eat dairy and eggs, and they wanted to look at the different types of carotenoids, the beta-carotenes or vitamin A that showed up in the serum. And what they found was that in the group that ate organic eggs, and they used this for, I think it was the participants received 6 organic eggs per week for 8 weeks. And they noticed that the group consuming the organic eggs had a very slight increase in the level of beta-carotenoids. All right, so a little bit difference was seen there. And then the final study that they were able to assess was looking at inflammatory markers. And so they looked at something like 3,000 adults over age 50. They asked them about organic egg consumption versus conventional egg consumption. They had some blood samples. And what they found is those eating the organic eggs had slightly less C-reactive protein, so slightly less inflammatory markers. And so the evidence is not like wow, super different. It's not like super compelling one versus the other. As someone who eats a lot of eggs, I eat, a dozen a day, 16 a day, pretty regularly. I mean, it's pretty much every day I'm eating, somewhere, most days 16 eggs a day, which seems like a lot. And that's coupled with, 2-3 pounds of steak typically. I pick organic eggs. I just kind of reflexively grab for it. I buy them in bulk. I usually go and pick out a bunch of organic eggs. Sometimes I get them from my neighbors if they have them. Do I think it's going to make a huge difference to me personally? Probably not that much of a difference. But, when you look at, is it, and the price differential on eggs are pretty cheap as it is. The price point is not too bad, quite honestly. An organic egg, you might be paying for a dozen eggs, it might be $5, for a dozen versus, $3.50 or $3 for a dozen of the conventional eggs, depending where you go. And they vary a little bit. I often buy these big packs of 50 or 60 eggs at a time. Like I said, I'm going through, 100 a week or something like that at the rate I'm eating them at. So I buy in bulk, so it's usually a pretty economical price there. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about eggs. Do you strictly buy organic eggs? Have you noticed a difference between eating organic eggs and conventional eggs? I can't say that I have personally. The data on this, again, and this is something we really need to do, and I've talked about the beef industry, or people talking about beef, whether it's grass-finished beef versus grain-finished beef. We don't have a lot of human outcome studies on that. I know that Stefan von Vliet at University of Utah is working on some of those studies. I think Fred Provenza is also working on some of these studies. So when those studies are done, I will be the first one of the first person to let you know about them, because I think that's great. My hope really is that the regeneratively pastured beef shows out to be superior. I think that's a great story. But if it doesn't, we should accept that. I mean, right now I see literally thousands of people that get super healthy eating conventionally raised beef. And that's just the way it is. And I'm not going to shy away from saying that people shouldn't do that, because sometimes people have a preference. Some people have a price point. Some people don't have the freezer capacity to buy a side of beef. Whatever the reason is, just eat more animal products, eat more beef. And then the other things, the finer points, we shouldn't die on the hill that if it's not organic eggs or if it's not grass-finished beef that we can't eat it. That's a wrong decision to make. You do the best you can with the resources you have. You continue to strive to do better, but ultimately you do what works for you. That's what it's all about. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you guys. We're at 84,000 subscribers, so we're getting close to that 200,000 mark. Maybe I'll do something, I don't know, unique on the 200,000 to celebrate that. Anyway, thanks for being part of this, and we'll talk to you soon.